They say every marriage has a rhythm. Ours had a beat. It just wasn't mine anymore. It was a Thursday. I remember because I was wearing the gray sweater I only wear when the laundry hasn't been done, and that's always a Thursday thing in our house. Well, was a thing. Back then, I still had the illusion of routine. Ashley was running late again. Said the meeting ran long. Then traffic. Then she was emotionally exhausted, which is just code for don't ask me anything or I'll snap and make it your fault. I didn't ask. I just sat on the couch, pretending to be absorbed in some documentary about ancient shipwrecks, which I'd already watched twice. Anything to avoid the conversation neither of us wanted to start. She breezed in, kissed the top of my head like I was her golden retriever, and vanished upstairs to unwind. I stayed in the living room, watching wooden boats rot at the bottom of the Mediterranean and wondering when exactly our marriage became one. The next morning, while grabbing her coat from the hook by the door, something I never do, but fate has a real sense of humor, I noticed it felt heavy, like something was tucked in the pocket. Maybe a snack. Maybe a rogue lipstick. Maybe the weight of a crumbling truth dressed up in beige wool. I reached inside. Out came a small, cream-colored paper. A receipt. Faded slightly, but the ink was still clear. 1 cappuccino. 2 spoons. 2 hearts. 2 hearts. 2. Not mine. At first, I just stared at it like it was a crossword puzzle I wasn't smart enough to solve. 2 spoons. What kind of sociopath shares a cappuccino? Then it hit me. This wasn't coffee. This was poetry disguised as caffeine. This was someone flirting through foam and heat and cheeky barista handwriting. I didn't say anything. Not right away. I folded that receipt like a priest folds a funeral cloth and slipped it into my wallet, behind my driver's license. Right under the picture of Ashley and me at Niagara Falls, the one where we're pretending to be in love because we already booked the tickets. And then, like any good fool with too much patience and not enough self-respect, I waited. I watched. I documented. I wasn't ready to explode yet. No, not yet. First, I needed confirmation. Second, I needed a plan. And third, I needed her to keep underestimating me. I didn't confront her. Not that night, or the one after that. Instead, I turned into someone I used to make fun of, one of those husbands who memorizes license plates, watches for texts over shoulders, and suddenly cares way too much about laundry schedules. Because when trust dies, suspicion becomes your new spouse. Ashley was herself, or at least the version of herself she thought I expected. She cooked dinner twice that week, bought almond milk even though I hate it, wore that satin robe she saves for when she wants something. But the thing about a woman pretending to be faithful is, she tries too hard, smiles too wide, touches your arm at just the wrong time. Love feels effortless. Guilt is choreography. Long day? She asked on Friday, sliding into the chair across from me with her wine glass tilted like an actress in a French film. Usual, I muttered, watching the condensation on my water glass instead of her eyes. She launched into some story about her team lead and a project deadline. A lot of dramatic sighs. A little office gossip. None of it made any real sense, but it didn't need to. People lie best when they use details. I nodded along, letting her believe I was still the man who bought every word. But later that night, when she fell asleep early, again, I checked her car. Glove box? Receipts. One from the same cafe, 2 days after the first one. Same handwriting. Same note. 2 spoons. 2 hearts. No names. No clues. Just romance disguised as routine. I sat in the driver's seat, holding the paper like it might whisper the truth if I stared long enough. That's when I noticed the faint scent. Cologne. Not mine. The passenger seat belt had been buckled recently, and the seat was adjusted way back, further than Ashley ever sits. Whoever he was taller than me. Nice. I didn't rage. I didn't break anything. That's not my style. Instead, I laughed. Just once. Quiet and bitter. Like the kind of laugh you give when your favorite team fumbles on the last play of the season. Then I went back inside, kissed her goodnight, and told her I loved her. Because I needed her to believe I was still in the dark. And because I'd already started planning how I'd turn the lights on. Saturday morning started with pancakes and betrayal. She was humming in the kitchen, flipping blueberries into batter like she hadn't spent her week whispering sweet nothings into someone else's jacket collar. Coffee? She asked cheerfully. Sure, I replied. Strong. She chuckled, thinking we were still playing house. I watched her move like a woman comfortable in her lie. That's the thing. They always get too comfortable. Deceit turns into muscle memory. After breakfast, She said she was meeting a friend from her book club. We're discussing that one you hated, she said, grabbing her oversized tote and slipping into her coat. The one with the pockets that held my last 3 weeks of unraveling. Which cafe? I asked, voice casual. She froze for half a second, just long enough for my heart to confirm what my brain already knew. That little place on Pine, she said. They do those cute coffee art things you like. 2 spoons. 2 hearts. She kissed my cheek and left. I waited exactly 2 minutes, then got into my car. Followed her. Yes, I know. Real movie of the week behavior. But you'd be amazed how easy it is to trail someone when they think you're at home alphabetizing your tools. She didn't go to Pine Street. She went to a different part of town entirely. Quieter, more private. Parked outside that same cafe. I waited. 5 minutes. 10. Then he arrived. Tall. Light stubble. Rolled sleeves and overconfident posture. Walked like someone who thought he'd earned her. They hugged. Then sat down. 2 spoons. 1 cappuccino. 2 hearts. She reached across the table, touched his hand. I didn't flinch. I didn't cry. I just leaned back in my seat and watched my marriage collapse behind a window pane and a cup of frothy milk. They talked. They laughed. She looked happier than she'd looked with me in a year. When they left, separately, like amateurs, I waited another 10 minutes before walking into that cafe. Same barista. Same cute smile. Can I help you? She asked. Yeah, I said. I'd like a cappuccino. 2 spoons. 2 hearts. She blinked. Oh, you know that order. I smiled. I do now. Sunday came dressed in silence. Ashley was in one of those cozy mood routines again. Flannel pajama pants, slippers, and a robe that said, nothing to hide. She asked if I wanted eggs. I said no. She asked if I wanted to walk the dog. I said later. She didn't press. Guilt makes people avoid pressure. Push too hard, and the cracks show. She sat beside me on the couch with a book in her lap, pretending to read. I was pretending to watch a football game I didn't care about. That's the thing about betrayal. It turns your entire life into community theater. 2 actors, 1 stage. One of us with a monologue they hope never gets read aloud. At 11:17 a.m., she stood up. I might go run a few errands, she said. I didn't ask where. I didn't ask when she'd be back. I just said, okay. And as she grabbed her keys, I handed her her coat. The coat. The one with the cafe receipt still in the inner pocket because I'd tucked it back after taking a photo of it. She paused for half a second when I held it out. Just long enough for me to see that micro-expression she thought she hid. That flinch. That wasn't surprise. That was recognition. She took the coat with a smile too tight to be casual and left. The moment the door closed, I turned off the game and opened the file. See, I'm not new to pain, but I'm not dumb either. I'd been building my little war chest since that cappuccino receipt fell into my lap like divine intervention. Digital copies of every receipt. A tracker installed on her car. Cloud access to her messages via a little app called Parently. I originally downloaded to monitor our niece when she stayed with us. She never uninstalled it. Never even noticed. Turns out, cheaters get sloppy when they think they're in control. Her little rendezvous buddy? His name was Colin. Colin with a C, like cliché. Sales manager. Divorced. No kids. Just enough free time and midlife loneliness to mistake my wife's affection for something permanent. I knew what hotel they favored. I knew the cafe they called theirs. I knew he sent her poetry at 2 a.m. that sounded like AI-generated nonsense from a Hallmark intern on a sugar crash. But most of all, I knew she'd lie about him if I asked. So I didn't ask. I invited. That night, after dinner, I poured her a glass of wine. She looked surprised, but said nothing. I sat across from her at the dining table. Let's talk, I said. About how you've been feeling lately. She blinked, cautious. Fine, I guess. Tired. Work's been nuts. I've noticed, I said, swirling my glass. But also, I've noticed how distant we've gotten. I miss us. That softened her. She leaned in, set her wine down, her voice dropping a note. I miss us too. A lie. Then let's try something, I said. Let's do a date night. Something old school. Something us. She smiled. Like dinner in a movie? More like dinner in a memory, I said. Let's go back to that little cabin. The one by Lake Briar. The one where I proposed. She paused. That's 3 hours away. You can take Monday off. I already cleared it with your boss. She blinked. You talked to Michael? No, I said slowly. I talked to his assistant. Truth was, I had already confirmed with HR that she hadn't used her vacation days because she'd been using his hotel suite. But she didn't need to know that yet. I'd love that, she said, placing her hand over mine. Really? That's sweet. Sweet. Yeah. So is revenge, when it's plated properly. The next morning, we packed. I was calm. She was jittery, kept checking her phone. I knew she'd be messaging him, canceling, making excuses, saying something like, just for the weekend, I promise. And I bet he said something pathetic like, don't forget me. At 9:30 a.m., we hit the road. The car ride was quiet. She played some acoustic playlist she thought matched the mood. I just drove. We reached the cabin by noon. It looked the same, weathered wood, pine smell, a view of the lake. Nostalgic, peaceful, isolated, perfect. She unpacked while I went to get firewood. What I actually did was check the final piece. Earlier that week, I'd sent an envelope to Colin's apartment. Inside, a photo of him and Ashley together, a copy of her marriage license, and a little note. She told me I was her only love, too. Let me know if you want to compare lies. I wasn't sure if he'd come, but the human ego is a fragile, idiotic thing. At 4:12 p.m., Ashley got a message. Her screen lit up while she was in the bathroom. From Colin. You're at the cabin? With him? After everything? You said you were leaving him. She came out a minute later, face pale. I forgot something in the car, she mumbled and rushed outside. I followed. She was standing near the pine trees, typing furiously, back turned. I stepped onto the porch, my voice steady. So, is it Colin or cappuccino that tastes better when it's hot? She froze. Didn't turn. Just lowered her phone slowly. What are you talking about? She whispered. I held up my phone and played the recording. Her voice, his voice, the cafe background. 2 spoons. 2 hearts. She didn't deny it. Didn't even cry. She just looked tired. Caught. Logan. I can explain. I shook my head. No. You can't. But you will. She swallowed. What do you want? I smiled. And for the first time in weeks, it was genuine. Oh, Ashley, I said. We're just getting started. The cabin air was colder than I remembered. Maybe it was the wind coming off the lake. Or maybe it was the woman beside me, silent and small now, staring at her wine like she could drown in it and save us both the trouble. We didn't talk much after I confronted her outside. She came back in, pale, lips tight, eyes darting like a raccoon in daylight. She asked if I wanted to go home. I said no, because I wasn't finished yet. Dinner, I offered, casual as Sunday brunch. Ashley blinked. What? You said you forgot how to cook on that old stovetop. Let's see if the muscle memory's still in there. She stared at me. I stared back. And then she got up, opened a cabinet, and pulled out a box of dry pasta. No words, just boiling water and the sound of our wedding vows evaporating. I set the table. 2 plates. 2 wine glasses. 2 hearts, right? She barely ate. I did. Someone had to. Is this where you yell at me? She asked suddenly, dropping her fork. No. Throw things? Call me names. No. Then what are you doing? I sipped my wine. I'm watching you try to figure out if you've lost. She laughed, but it came out more like a cough. Lost what? You. No, I said. That was the first prize. The game's moved on now. She leaned back in the creaky chair, arms crossed like she was trying to hold herself together. You're being weirdly calm. I had 3 weeks to process this, I said. Calm is what happens when you've already screamed into the void and realized the void has better things to do. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she looked up. What do you want from me? There it was. The question. The truth is, I didn't want anything from her. Not really. What I wanted was for her to see it. To feel it. The weight of what she'd done, not in the loud chaos of an argument, but in the suffocating quiet of consequence. But I didn't say that. Instead, I said, let's go through a few things. I stood up, walked over to the duffel bag I'd brought. Just one. She thought it was clothes. It wasn't. I pulled out a folder. Thick. Labeled neatly, truth. I dropped it on the table with a satisfying thump. Ashley stared at it like it might hiss. What is that? She asked. I flipped it open. Inside were photos, screenshots, receipts, a copy of her messages with Colin, a printout of her fake Gmail account, GPS logs, hotel bills, the cafe receipt, laminated for dramatic effect. I slid the laminated one across the table. Remember this? She didn't answer. Do you know what the barista told me when I went in the next day? Still nothing. She said, you two make such a sweet couple. Ashley closed her eyes. Logan, please. Please what? Don't do this. Not like this. I haven't done anything, I said calmly. Yet, she opened her eyes. Glossy. Red. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. But I didn't mean for it to go this far. That line. That line people use when the cliff is already behind them, and they've just realized gravity doesn't care about intention. Define this far, I said. Because you already went far enough to need a second set of towels. Ashley stood up, chair screeching backward. Okay, you made your point, she snapped. You're hurt. You want to humiliate me. Congratulations. You win. No, I said, standing too. See, that's where you're wrong. You think this is about humiliation? About revenge, isn't it? No. This is about clarity. You lit a fire in our house, Ashley. I'm just handing you the match and making sure you see your name carved into the handle. She took a shaky breath. What happens now? I'm giving you a choice. Her brow furrowed. Option 1, I said, holding up a flash drive. You walk out that door tonight, and you leave behind everything you lied to get. I already transferred half the money out of our joint account. I already emailed Colin the folder. He knows everything. So do his HR supervisors. If you walk away, I won't go nuclear. No lawsuits. No court drama. No public spectacle. You get to disappear quietly. Ashley's lips parted, but she didn't speak. Option 2, I continued, you come home with me, we pretend to fix things, and I spend every single day making sure you never forget who I am. You'll live in my house, eat my food, sleep in my guest room, but you'll never touch my peace again. She blinked. You'd keep me there? No. You'd be choosing to stay. Big difference. A long pause. The only sound was the low wind rustling pine needles outside. Finally, she asked, why are you doing this? Because for years, I said quietly, I thought I had to be the nice guy, the forgiving husband, the glue. But now I realize something. What? I was never the glue. I was the table. Ashley sank back into her chair, shoulders shaking. She wasn't crying. Not yet. But the tears were waiting. And I didn't feel sorry. I stood there, still, grounded. Go pack your things, I said. Colin already texted back. He won't take you in. But that's not my problem. She didn't move. I added, you have 1 hour. If you're still here when I come back in, I'll assume you're choosing option 2. And I walked out the front door into the cold night. Didn't slam it. Didn't look back. Because I wasn't angry anymore. I was in control. When I came back inside, the suitcase was gone. So was she. No note. No last-ditch plea for forgiveness. Not even the usual dramatic speech that people like Ashley save for when they want to rewrite their own betrayal into a misunderstood love story. Just silence. And that was perfect. I poured myself a glass of the wine she brought. Some overpriced bottle she once said tasted like summer in Paris. Tasted more like vinegar and arrogance now, but I drank it anyway. Small victory, sure. But when your wife of 6 years leaves because you gave her a choice between dignity and exposure, every sip feels like a championship toast. I didn't call her. Didn't chase her. I just stood in the kitchen of that old cabin, letting the quiet settle around me like dust on an empty shelf. And then the phone rang. Not hers. His. See, Colin did respond to that little package I mailed him. Took a few hours, probably a few drinks too. But eventually, I got a voicemail. I played it on speaker because somehow that made it funnier. Logan. Man, I don't even know what to say. I didn't know she was married until, honestly, until the hotel receipts. She told me you two were separated. That she was trapped. That you were cold. I raised my eyebrows. Cold? Interesting interpretation of keeping the heat on, the fridge full, and her car in working order while she played house with another man. She's good. Real good. But I'm not into married women. Or being lied to. I'm sorry, man. He paused. Then added. I hope you bury her. Click. Classy guy. I saved the voicemail, not out of spite, but because you never know when karma wants a replay. By the time I drove us home the next morning, well, me, singular now, the house felt different. Not cleaner. Not emptier. Just honest. No pretending anymore. No weird perfume that didn't match the occasion. No hiding her charger in the guest room like I wouldn't notice. Just me in the silence, which I'd grown to prefer. It was almost peaceful. Until the text started. At first, it was one. Ashley, I need to talk. I left it unread. Then another. Ashley, can we meet? Please. Then came the phone calls. 12 in 3 days. I let them ring out. No voicemails. Not until day 4. She finally left one. Logan. I get it. Okay? I messed up. I don't need the lecture. I need the chance. I need you. Colin ghosted me. My sister won't let me stay more than a night. I'm alone. You win. Is that what you wanted? She sounded broken. I wanted to feel something, but I didn't. So I did what every man who's finally found the exit to a burning building does. I blocked her number and moved on. Or tried to. Because betrayal's like black mold. It lingers in the corners, hidden until you tear out the drywall and see just how far the damage really went. And speaking of drywall, that weekend, I found myself at Home Depot. Not for a new sink or a hammer or any of the usual man rebuilds life cliches. I went there to buy paint. Because I decided the bedroom walls should no longer be the same color as the lies she told while standing in front of them. New sheets, new curtains, new scent in the air. You can't erase history, but you can repaint it. Halfway through my little renovation, I found her journal, stuffed behind the dresser drawer like she knew I'd never go looking there. I almost didn't read it. Almost. But curiosity is a vicious little whisperer. So I sat on the edge of my bed and opened it. No locks. No keys. Just messy handwriting, sketches in the margins, and quotes from poetry books I never saw her read. But somewhere between grocery lists and therapy affirmations was a sentence I won't forget. I feel invisible when I'm with Logan. He's a good man, but he's not enough. Not for who I'm becoming. I closed the book, set it on fire, in the grill, with mesquite charcoal, cooked a burger right after. Tasted like closure. See, that's the thing nobody tells you about heartbreak. It doesn't end in fireworks or screaming matches or even satisfying revenge. It ends in errands, paint samples, sandwiches made at midnight. You don't heal in the big dramatic gestures. You heal in the boring stuff. But just when I thought I'd settled into my boring new peace, a letter arrived. Not a text, not an email. A letter, handwritten, sealed, and dropped in my mailbox like a relic from a decade past. From her. The envelope was thin, cream-colored. I almost didn't open it. But I did. And inside? Not an apology. Not a plea. Just a receipt. 1 cappuccino. 2 spoons. 2 hearts. On the back, she'd written, "Some things don't taste the same when the other person isn't there to drink it." That was it. No signature. No return address. Just the same line that started this whole story. Full circle. A final breadcrumb. I crumpled it. Tossed it. Didn't even feel a flicker. Because here's the truth, the one you learn after the storm. You don't need revenge when you've got resilience. You don't need closure from the person who broke you. You just need to rebuild the room they couldn't survive in. And maybe, eventually, you'll invite someone else in. But this time, no cappuccinos. No cafe metaphors. Just 1 spoon. 1 heart. Mine. The days that followed were quiet in the loudest way. No calls. No knocks. Just the occasional nosy neighbor wondering why Ashley's car hadn't been in the driveway. I told them she was traveling. I left out the part where she was permanently relocating to her own consequences. I didn't need to tell the world she cheated. I just needed to make sure she knew I knew, and that I was doing just fine without her. The silence was broken a week later when my buddy Miles dropped by. Tall, nosy, smarter than me in all the worst ways. The type of friend who doesn't say sorry after your life falls apart. He just shows up with a 6-pack and a bad joke. He stepped inside, took one look at the fresh paint, and said, "Wow. Divorce beige. Bold choice." "I call it unfaithful fog," I replied. He whistled, cracked the can open. "So, you really let her go?" "No," I said. I opened the door. She let herself out. He nodded, more serious now. "You gonna burn her stuff?" "Donated it. Someone out there's rocking designer guilt right now." We clinked cans. He didn't press further. That's how you know someone respects your story. They don't need to hear it to believe it happened. It took me 3 weeks to go back to that cafe. Not because I was afraid. Because I wanted to see if they'd still remember the order. I stepped up to the counter. Same barista. Ponytail. Nose ring. Too much kindness for a world like this. She blinked when she saw me. "Cappuccino, right?" 2 spoons, 2 hearts. I smiled. "Just 1 spoon today." She paused. "Gotcha. And just 1 heart." I held her gaze. "Exactly 1." She nodded and went to work. I sat at a table near the back, watching couples talk over lattes, share croissants, laugh at nothing. It didn't hurt. It didn't sting. It just looked average. Which made me realize something. Ashley and I weren't a tragic love story. We weren't a grand novel with a twist ending. We were a short story that ran out of pages because the author stopped caring halfway through. And now? Now I was writing a sequel, solo edition. The coffee came out perfect. No foam art. No symbolism. Just caffeine and heat. Just the way I like it. Let's talk about revenge. Not the Hollywood kind. Not the slash the tires, post the texts, torch the affair kind. The real kind. The quiet kind. The kind that doesn't land with a scream, but with the subtle click of a door that never opens again. 1 month after she left, Ashley emailed me. Said she needed to talk things through like adults. Said she wanted clarity. That she deserved closure. I replied, closure isn't a group activity. She didn't like that. So she tried the last resort, reputation. Told some mutual friends I was emotionally distant. Claimed I checked out first. Said I wasn't present. You know what I did? Nothing. Because every lie collapses under its own weight if you let it talk long enough. And it did. Colin messaged me again. Said she tried to circle back. Claimed I was abusive. Said she was the real victim. He didn't buy it. Sent me a screenshot. She'd asked if he wanted to try again. He replied with one word. Blocked. She was alone now. Truly. And that's the cruelest revenge of all. Not yelling. Not fighting. Just walking away and never looking back. While they do nothing but look for a rearview mirror that's already shattered. 6 months passed. Spring came early. I planted lavender out front. Painted the mailbox. Adopted a dog named Theo who hates cappuccinos but loves car rides. The house felt new, not because of what I changed, but because of what I removed. Her. Every toothbrush. Every robe. Every scent that wasn't mine. I started laughing again. Not that hollow, polite laugh you use at dinner parties. I mean full-bellied, can't breathe. What even is this movie kind of laugh? It was strange at first. Freedom always is. I dated a little. Nothing serious. Just good people, honest company, and quiet evenings with no one hiding a second phone. And I told no one about Ashley anymore. Not because I forgot her, but because she stopped being the plot twist and started being the footnote. Some nights, I still think about that receipt. The one that said, 1 cappuccino, 2 spoons, 2 hearts. And I smile. Because I know now, 1 spoon is all I ever needed. 1 heart, too. Mine.